Welcome back to the Psychological Paradigm Shift podcast. I'm your host, Ed Rieger. I hope you found this last episode informational and helpful. And always remember, I am only providing my personal opinions based on my experiences and education on psychological topics. We will be talking about mental illness in a very blunt, transparent manner. The topics may be disturbing to some, and it will never be my intent to hurt anyone, only to share my ideas and thoughts. Let's get started. So in this chapter, we're going to be talking about over 40, chapter 4. Over 40 and going forward in the induced mentally ill's lives is cemented. Chaos chasers at this time have created a trail of destruction that can't be overstated. If they had children, those kids are now either teens or young adults and are beginning to recreate their parents' induced psychosis. Many of the kids are starting to experience the same kind of self-destruction or self-destructive behaviors and patterns of their parents. They've started drinking, using drugs, having children in their teens or young adulthoods, and maybe committing unspeakable acts of abuse to their siblings and others. Acts that will change their psychological foundation forever. They are becoming or are chaos chasers. Now, if you're thinking of dating or marrying the parent of these chaos chasers, then think for a moment what you're in for. If you have your own children, you will be beginning a melted family. You will now become a step parent to these possibly young chaos chasers. Whatever problems they have will now become yours. But what if you have children? They will now be exposed to the behaviors of these chaos chasers. Will they now become victims of these abusers? Will they be raped, beaten, psychologically tortured, and who knows what? If these chaos chasers abuse each other, what makes you think they would spare your child? But wait, you won't just be creating the blended family with this chaos chaser and their children. You may be creating it with every chaos chaser they've ever had a relationship with, especially if they had children together. Now think about this for a minute. If they had multiple disastrous relationships that they just dated or were married to, and if they had a child or multiple children in that relationship, then you will now be tied to every ex that they have and their children and every new romantic relationship that the ex has and may ever have in the future. If that ex has their own psychological issues that they are dealing with, now you are experiencing also. But wait, it's just not you. What if your children somehow interact with this chaos chaser's ex? What you have to consider are the possibilities of the damage that your child may face from exposure to that ex. Do they have an alcohol problem? Drug problem? Are they swingers? Will they sexually assault your child? Will they physically abuse your child? Now, things are going to get really complicated if the ex comes from a home of parents who abuse them. Then should you worry that the grandparents, siblings, extended family may have exposure to your child? From any activity your child may have to participate with them, pool parties, barbecues, vacations, sporting events, and a million other activities where they have access and opportunities with your child. But wait, it gets more complicated. Is this ex dating anyone? Have they remarried themselves? Should you assume if they are chaos chasers, this new romantic partner is a chaos chaser also? What kind of abuse are they capable of? Will your child be exposed to potential harm? But wait, it gets even more complicated. What about this romantic partner's children? Will they abuse your child? What about this partner's parents and extended family? Who are they? Are they chaos chasers? You have to assume that if this romantic partner is involved with the ex, then most likely they are. But wait, it gets even more complicated. What about the romantic partner of the ex has connections to their exes? Maybe they have children from more than one ex. Now your problem has just exploded into multiple possible threats of your child. By just dating or planning to marry this one chaos chaser. 50% of all first marriages will fail. 67% of second marriages will fail. And 73% of third marriages will fail. Could all of this have anything to do with it? Other than infidelity, lack of communication, lack of intimacy, finances, and abuse. You can't mandate that everyone being exposed to your child through all of these exes and romantic connections do background checks. This is why dating or marrying a chaos chaser is potentially impossible, impractical, and could be very dangerous for you and any children you may have. That's why if I had children, I would definitely recommend they read How Not to Date or Marry the Mentally Ill, so they may be able to avoid this situation as they begin their dating activities, especially if they're young, in their late teens. I know this may be a difficult read for them, but it may be critical. Now let's talk about fog lifters after 40. Where they are the most likely and what possibilities of you being able to date or marry them. Fog lifters are well on their way to a much healthier mental state. They've most likely spent much of their late 20s and 30s accepting the traumas they experienced and either have self-analyzed their behaviors and made the adjustments necessary to start the healing process, or they've received the proper counseling from a therapist who has helped them start the healing. The wounds have begun to close. Unfortunately for them, depending on the severity of the traumas that cause these wounds, they will most likely last their entire lives. It doesn't mean that these wounds will ever control their behaviors. It just means that some of the memories of these wounds are still hidden and will take them their entire lifetime to continue educating themselves to the effect of these traumas. I'm 64 years old, and I will be running through a trauma in my mind, and a memory will trigger a new understanding of what happened. For example, I was thinking of my rapist, and when he was first introduced to me. This is something I never asked myself until recently. As I worked back through the memory, I realized that one of my brothers introduced me to him. My brother brought him to our house to meet my mother. They were asking her to let me go to an amusement park with them. My mother had never met the man, as far as I know, but she agreed. That's how I thought he got access to me, until my mind opened and helped me begin to ask some very disturbing questions. How did my brother know a man that could rape a young boy? Where did they meet? Was my brother having a physical relationship with this man? Why would my brother let this man know who I was? Why would my brother convince my mother to let me go with this man? Did my brother know that this man was going to rape me? Did my brother volunteer me up to this man? Was he paid to make the introduction? Or did he do it for free? Unfortunately, I was never able to ask my brother any of these questions. As you might have guessed, we had an extremely strained relationship our entire lives. And he never came to me for forgiveness or to explain how and why he made that introduction. Maybe I'll get that piece of the puzzle in the next life. Fog lifters after 40 may be on their way to a very productive and light and enjoyable future. They will be constantly trying to improve themselves through education. They know that knowledge is the only tool they have to understand the traumas they've experienced. They may be able to find a romantic relationship that will complete their paradigm shift. Of course, they will most likely create this relationship with another fog lifter because of their shared histories. In coming episodes, we're going to review the 802 dating questions and how to not date or marry the mentally ill, and explore this topic and how to understand induced mental illness even more. Thank you for sharing time with me again tonight. I hope this information was helpful to you as we progress through this psychological paradigm shift. I look forward to next week's episode. Take care of yourselves.